Thank you all. Appreciate you being here this afternoon. Joining me here at the podium is Cam Strom, who is the ASAC, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Next to him is Tom Blanchard, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE. And next to him is Travis Smith, the Resident Agent in charge of the Tri-County Initiative of the North Florida High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, commonly known as HIDTA. And also, so that you will know, Dominic Pape of FDLE could not be here with us today. And there was another agency also involved in this large-scale investigation, and that was the U.S. Postal Service inspectors, and they are not here with us today. In Operation.com, we have made 17 arrests in this very significant drug investigation, and there are 4 people who are still wanted on drug trafficking charges, conspiracy charges. Those 4 are the ones with the red dots beside them. I know they're hard to see. You can spot those later when you get closer. But the dismantling of this operation has impacted not only Jacksonville, Florida, but other areas of Florida and states such as Georgia, South Carolina, Arizona, and California. This investigation was a coordinated effort of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the United States Department of Homeland Security, the North Florida HIDTA, the United States Postal Service inspections, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And here's some of the background on this investigation. In the early part of 2011, information was obtained that a local drug organization was responsible for distributing large quantities of cocaine and marijuana on the streets of Jacksonville. One of the leaders of this organization was an individual by the name of George Waziri. This information was verified after a traffic stop was conducted on him. Waziri was driving a rental car. Inside was discovered $72,000, which was found in a concealed driver's panel of the car, and you can see that. Point that out, Melissa. The $72,000 in the panel, yeah. And Waziri is no stranger to the criminal justice system and had been arrested more than a dozen times with charges ranging from driving without a license to robbery. Waziri had developed a close network to obtain and sell both cocaine and marijuana throughout Jacksonville, and he would utilize various methods to transport his narcotics, such as vehicles with concealed compartments, as you see in these photographs, to also utilizing various postal parcel services. The investigation eventually led to the identity of one of Waziri's main suppliers and some other associates. The investigation then branched in several directions, which led to information that identified drug traffickers in Putnam and Marion counties of Florida, as well as Atlanta, Georgia. Sean Richards was identified as Waziri's main source of cocaine. Richards, a Jamaican national, had a drug distributing organization which spanned California, Arizona, South Carolina, and Florida. Richards' organization was responsible for distributing in excess of 200 kilograms of cocaine annually with a street value of over $6 million. In total, 17 persons have been arrested in connection with this investigation, and seizures have included over $330,000 in cash, 9 vehicles, and 9 firearms. And on display here is the handguns, and this is a representation of the drugs and firearms that were seized in this investigation. The handguns are actually part of the original part of the investigation. Those things that aren't actually from this investigation are currently being processed by FDLE, but everything is a very good representation. As I mentioned earlier, there are still 4 individuals who are still wanted on various charges, including conspiracy to traffic cocaine. And now I'll call on Assistant Special Agent in Charge Cam Strom to give you some additional information about the investigation. Kim?
Since June of this year, the Drug Enforcement Administration Jacksonville Task Force, which includes ICE, Homeland Security Investigations, joined with the Sheriff's Office and conducted a complex investigation of George Waziri and his cocaine trafficking organization, responsible for bringing multiple kilograms of cocaine to the Jacksonville area weekly. Utilizing numerous investigative tools, our law enforcement partners beside me today pursued leads to Waziri's co-conspirators across the country, here in Florida and right here in Jacksonville, resulting in cocaine and guns being taken off the streets and out of the community. Drug proceeds were taken from the traffickers. Successes like the one announced today are the results of cooperative, working together agencies, utilizing the important resources for the common goal of putting drug traffickers in prison. Thank you.
Tom? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Since the sheriff and Special Agent Strom provided details on this investigation, I won't take up any of our time going over that same ground. But I would like to mention that, you know, in these times of ever-increasing fiscal restraints, I think it's more important than ever that law enforcement agencies, your law enforcement agencies, work together, pool their resources so that they can be as effective as possible in serving the public's interest. And this investigation is an outstanding example of such cooperation. By pooling the resources of Jacksonville Sheriff's Department and other state and federal law enforcement agencies, we were able to take this investigation beyond Jacksonville and identify and eliminate criminal activity that was affecting communities all across our country. As I was introduced as the ICE Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Homeland Security Investigations Office here in Jacksonville, I wanted to take, because we're a new entity, ICE has been around since 2003. Homeland Security Investigations has just recently been created. So I want to take just a couple minutes to explain what HSI is and how it is that we come to be involved in these types of investigations. As you may have heard in the past, ICE has over 2,000 employees that serve in some 400 offices across the United States and the world. ICE is a critical player in the Department of Homeland Security's strategy of a layered approach to protecting our nation. HSI has some 6,000 special agents and plays a critical role in the ICE mission, as we're responsible for investigating a wide range of domestic and international activities that arise from the illegal movement of persons or things into, within, or out of the United States. In this capacity, HSI conducts criminal investigations that involve virtually any kind of criminal activity that has an international nexus. And it's those authorities and expertise that were brought to bear in this investigation. We have an international aspect to this investigation where the criminals involved were bringing cocaine, marijuana into the United States from Mexico, and they were exporting their illicit proceeds from the United States to those Mexican drug cartels. And as I said, you know, this is a great example of what can be achieved through interagency cooperation. I want to congratulate all the detectives, agents, and other law enforcement officers that played a role in this success. I'd like to thank Sheriff Rutherford for calling this press conference today and affording me an opportunity to speak with you. I'd also like to publicly thank DEA, the Sheriff's Department, FDLE, and all the other law enforcement agencies in the Jacksonville area for their continued partnership with HSI. And with that, I will turn it over to Resident Agent in Charge from FDLE, Travis Smith of Legal Safety.
On behalf of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Commissioner Gerald Bailey, I would like to thank Sheriff Rutherford, his staff, and all the law enforcement agencies that worked on this case for another outstanding operation. This operation is a model on how law enforcement agencies working together can accomplish great tasks on a local, regional, and national stage. Every time we have an opportunity to remove dangerous contraband from our communities, it makes our communities safer for our citizens, our businesses, and our children. Thank you.
You know, Travis touched on it. We all know that drugs is the nexus for a lot of the violence in our community. Taking down operations like this by utilizing local, state, and federal law enforcement resources is critical to our success. I believe that's why Jacksonville, you know, we're now seeing the lowest violent crime rate that we've had in 40 years per capita. Lowest murder rate we've had in 40 years per capita murder rate. And in fact, this year we're down 5 murders from where we were yesterday. And although we're happy about those numbers, we're not happy with those numbers. And so we're going to continue to aggressively go after those who would ply their trade of drugs on Jacksonville streets. And we're going to use every resource available, both at the local, state, and federal level, to see to it that those folks are stopped from bringing their drugs and violence into our community. So with that, we'll throw it open for any questions.
How did this function? How were the drugs brought from where to, I mean, we've got California and et cetera. How did it work?
Well, a lot of it was by vehicle in these compartments that you see. I know they're kind of hard to see from back there, but as you come up closer, you can see how they contain them in hidden compartments in these vehicles. But mainly, they also used a lot of postal service transportation, parcel service.
So from California to, or from the west to the east, or how did it go back and forth? What was the?
Well, it was mainly coming from Mexico, we believe, from Mexico through, well, actually to Jacksonville, and these other states as well, Arizona, Georgia.
So you said the Postal Service played a role here? Were they intercepting packages here?
Cam, you want to answer that?
Postal Service was a partner in this investigation, and they did intercept packages and made the investigators aware of packages that were inbound from other portions of the country.
Why was it called Operation.com? Is there an internet component here?
No, Waziri, that's his nickname is Dot. And so it was, his street name is Dot. So we call it Operation.com. Should have been .com.
Any other questions?
Was Waziri's pullover kind of the linchpin here to starting everything? Is that how the ball
Yes,
got rolling?
he was a target that was developed by one of our investigators, Officer Detective Bates, and we were able to make a probable cause stop on him, recovered the $72,000 in a concealed compartment, and the investigation spiraled from there.
Is there a part of town where the drugs were being sold in Jacksonville? Or obviously this was across the country, but was this a certain section of Jacksonville that was really buying up these things?
Well, I think it was pretty much across the city. Yeah.
So you're saying 17 arrests in total have been made, 4 still at large?
4 is still at large,
Are
correct.
they in Jacksonville, sir? You expect, I mean, I know you don't know exactly where they are, but you expect it to be in this area or in the state?
Well, we don't know. We do suspect that one has probably fled back to Jamaica. We're not sure, but we're working on that.
There's 17 arrested plus 4 who are for a total of 21.
Correct.
Okay.
Were all these arrests in Jacksonville, or were they all over, or the nature of some of these arrests?
I'm not sure where they were at when they were actually all arrested. Were they all? They were all
The majority
here?
were here.
The majority were here.
And
We can give you that breakdown later.
Then maybe later you can get this. Were they at separate residences? And was this a mass raid at one time? Like sometimes you do those all at once?
No, they're scattered out. It was over a period of time they picked them up.
And this began in June. You mentioned June.
It was early 2011.
Or it wasn't a month of May or April or? You know, the first
Do-
quarter.
You don't want to get too specific.
And Sheriff, how would you characterize the size of this bust? You've had plenty of drug busts over the years. How's the size of this one comparatively?
This is a very significant drug bust. Although you only have 9 keys here, 200, we know historically 200 kilos a year being moved by this organization. That is very, very significant.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.